Welcome back in our Issues crew to the final part of our epic conversation with Michael Coppage. We're about to dive deeper into the meaning and the effects of his work. Without further ado, here is the IOI crew.
So when we were talking about the show at the Aronoff and the cookout photo, I used the word picnic.
Yeah.
And I should not have done that. And I know why I shouldn't have, because you told me the etiology
but you used the right word, right? Because this is a picnic.
And that's why I did, because it was me in that scene.
This is a picnic.
I was the one. And so just so you know, it frustrates me that we don't always do what I think we ought to do.
Right.
My example is we have a picnic every year, and I went and had a conversation with the person that I should have about that and related the story that I had heard and fully expected us to have a cookout this year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. I tried to leave it off of all the stuff, but they were like, isn't this also the picnic? And so I had to put it back on.
Okay, so they were thinking it was two different things, but it's just a word that's been encultured into that, and
it's been normalized and metabolized to, to a point where we don't even consider that it might be harmful.
Yeah.
Right?
I think too, like, language is so important, and just to kind of make a small comparison to those who may be listening who struggle with mental health, it's like the word crazy that's thrown around all the time.
Yeah.
Or like we like to, in the peer support world, we like to lead with person first language. So that person struggles with a bipolar disorder. They're not bipolar because it's not them or their identity.
Right. They're living with it.
It's
as
just
opposed to being it.
That's how I
it's just
felt
what
at
genetics
Aronoff.
gave you.
I'm a man living with whiteness.
Yeah.
Like,
yo, me too.
I'm a man living with whiteness.
Fair enough.
Wait a second.
I just wanted to disappear.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't. And if you noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, but it was kind of like a honey trap, right? Like, the show.
Absolutely.
You walk in the show and it's set up like I had not Fifth Third. I had what's the company? They're like upscale.
ACDC?
No, they just closed down. They
upscale.
It's not Macy's. It's
Macy.
JCPenney?
No, the upscale. Upscale.
JCPenney's upscale to me.
Right across the street.
That's funny.
Saks Fifth, not Fifth Third, right? I had Saks Fifth come in and stage this boutique, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I made everything. I made the sculptures on the table. There was a lookbook. I made some fragrances. I made some crowns, earrings, some clothing, ski masks. I even made the carpet on the floor, right? And when I say I say that loosely, but all of these things were imagined and crafted, by me and my team. Not Fifth Third, but Saks Fifth came in, they staged it, and they staged it because they cater to a European aesthetic, right? So it looked like it had always been a part of that space. And then you got white box and black box.
Yeah.
And those are the only two works that are in the room. This is what I call, this space isn't typically a safe space for me. I walk into spaces like this and I get followed around and shit like that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But,
oh boy,
but I created this space because it's lobby level and it caters to a certain aesthetic, and people come in and they're like, oh, this is like, okay, I can see it. All right. That's kind of confrontational if but I can dig it. Right. And then you see that there's an installation on the steps and you just follow all the words down. You're not even looking forward. You're looking down because all the words are on the stairs. Right. And then you get to the bottom and all the walls are now painted black when they were just white above. And all the work just kind of gets really intense. It just, like the heat turns up. That first one's about gentrification and monkeys and white flight and all of this. And then you walk in and then there's, Picture Perfect where I'm transitioning from dark skin to white skin. and blue eyes. And then there's loudmouth, which kind of talks about, the death of many people who didn't live to be 30. And, the distance from our first racial experience to our inevitable murder when we learn that certain rules apply to us differently. And then you have this kind of like secret space, that the black box, where you have 10-foot faces, and they're all kind of talking about their experiences from age 12 to 92. And then you have the cookout, and then you have the 12 commandments, which is about the real fear the Black Americans have about their interactions with the police, and how even in compliance with police commands, it doesn't guarantee you get to live. So, which is in violation of, commandment number 1, thou shalt not kill, right? And then there's a video where 13 black dudes are getting shot, like it's a lot to take in, emotionally and viscerally and in many other ways. But when you get down to that level, you can't now just turn around and go back upstairs. You kind of have to, now you're being dragged through it. The hook is kind of set and you're just being dragged through it. And some people, they went through really, really quickly, Some people took their time with it, but I realized, how this could go. So I had to stage it in a way where it gradually kind of increased, it's like being on a treadmill or elliptical or bike or something. You start out flat, and then 10 minutes in, the resistance starts going up. Yeah. And by the end, you're like
it
exhausted.
Almost made me feel like, and this is not true, it's just a saying that people believe, if you put a frog in a pot of cool water and turn the heat on, it'll stay in there. Mm-hmm. If you drop them in a pot of hot water, it's going to get the hell out of there. Yeah. That's what I felt like. Yeah. Like the water was being heated up all around me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good analogy, because I think that, that was the intent, being a conceptual artist, and a lot of times it's more than just making the artwork, it's about how you stage the space the work is in, whether that's outdoors, in an alley, on a building, or whether it's 3,500 square feet, you really have to conceive, like the path that how you want to lead people through the work. And, some people, white box was enough to stop some people dead in their tracks. They didn't even come in. They were just like, I'm done. Right. But for those who were able to get past that maybe initial shock, because those were huge images, maybe now they're here, they make it downstairs and they get the full experience. And I think that, it was just really smartly crafted for your viewing experience,
I agree with that. And I think that you probably pay attention to every detail.
Yeah, I'm everything a big picture guy. I'm a big picture guy.
I see, me too.
I see it all. I can see it all. And I get into the details of each of the pieces to make sure that they're the best quality that they can be. And so in that extra attention to the detail, can really change someone's experience.
Absolutely.
And so,
yeah, at least from my experience, you never know what's going to resonate with somebody. What little detail is important to them that they're looking for.
I don't know if you saw this, but I was out to dinner with a friend a couple weeks ago, and he thought it was an accident, so he didn't say anything to me. But at the show, in the room where the cookout was hanging, there was a mural painted of some white figures being hung, right? Now, those were black people, but I painted them white to kind of play up what was happening in the space. On that wall that mural was on was my son's name. He had written his name on the wall. And it was real small, like a couple inches. And, you know, the walls were black. So he wrote it with like a white grease pencil. So it was like, it was there.
Show up.
But you couldn't see it. Like if you look at the exhibition photos, you don't see it on the wall, even though I know it's there, right?
Got you.
And so I was talking about how, you know, I was in the gallery, I was doing the mural, and I caught my son writing on the wall behind me, and I had to paint over it. But I was like, when I thought about it, I said, you know, when these lynchings were taking place, there were always children present, always in all the photos.
Wow,
so while I was painting the mural, I had him come over to the wall that I was painting the mural on and had him write his name as proof that he was present during this, you know, lynching, right? And that was a detail that I didn't plan. You know, I tried to get a kid in the photograph, but everybody was scared. You know, black people ain't with that, hanging people, burning people. Just like the thought of it, like had us all shell shocked. We were all standing. We did this in a public park in Clifton, right? And we were just like stuck after hanging this guy for 60 seconds, and it was like traumatic. So we went and had tequila after that. We went to the taco place and we drank tequila for like 3 hours. You know, we couldn't find the strength to separate because this experience had bonded us in a way that was so traumatic. And so so we couldn't get the kid in the photograph. So I thought that this was like a great like hack, right? Like we could get a kid here now. And he's already writing on the walls, you know, like, hey, just go right over there. And he did that. And it turned out that like, that was like that just kind of helped bump up the details.
I agree with that. And even more than that, in my head, Michael, that's graffiti. And that's, you know, someone saying this horrible picture is, you know, it's as bad as it is. This is my response to it. I'm gonna write my name under this. And I feel like that's kind of the mind's eye that's been open for me is with your work is I've been scribbling on stuff and, you know, treating it not the way it should be treated. Does that make sense? Kind of.
Well, I mean, not without context, probably not as much. But
I'm terrible without context.
But I think I do understand. You know, I mean, for me, like the only time I've ever been to jail was because I was out doing graffiti. You know, and I got caught with two of my friends. I had a marker in my pocket. I thought I got rid of my cans, but I forgot to get rid of my marker. And so I got caught, spent 21 hours in jail or something. And I was 16 years old. And so I've never been back and I'm never going back. But you know, to me, it wasn't vandalism. It was like, my son saw me doing something on the wall and he just kind of followed suit, but he didn't want to do what I was doing. You know, he wanted to do his own thing. Yeah. And so I let him because it made sense to me that his presence be captured by his signature.
100% agree. You know? And I didn't mean in any way that he was being a vandal. What I meant was, I'm exposed to these things that have happened that are part of our past, part of our collective past. And my reaction to a lot of them has been like I'm looking at a picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you Google lynching, I mean, you know, there's plenty of pictures you see, and they all are pictures of people who look like me.
Until I saw on October 4th.
Right. And so the cookout, you know, I mean, and honestly, that's where it was born from. I was researching something, and I kept looking at all these pictures and I was like, man, this is like fucked up. Like I know for a fact in my research that there have been plenty of white people who have been hanged and lynched, and plenty of Latinos, Chinese people. Right. There's all kind of people, Native Americans.
Witches.
You know, women. Yes.
But if you Google lynching,
all you see is black people. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is it becomes it becomes a document about the value of a Black life, right? And when you see those images, when I see those images, all you see is like, you know, what a Black life is evaluated as. You know, you don't, it doesn't show you in that situation because you're valued more. You see yourself as like affluent and whatever when you go to the museum or whatever, right? I had to create an image that counterbalanced that feeling that I felt. So at some point, if people search the cookout enough, this image, you know, it becomes a Googleable, if that's a word, Googleable, like countermeasure, right?
Yeah.
Like you see both things, right? And it resonates with you. One or the other resonates with you more, but it resonates with you. Like the whole point is, let's take all this stuff, you know, and like create some context. Like let's talk about like everyone instead of just like this. This isn't just a predominantly, well, maybe it is a predominantly Black experience, but Black people certainly weren't the only ones who were on the, you know, on the extended end of a noose, you know. Right. And so a photograph like the cookout is important because, you know, if you see yourself there, then maybe it helps you identify with the grievances that we still have. There's a reason that we aren't able to let this go. There's a reason why we can't just say it was in the past. There's a reason we can't forget this. And you know, and I say in the statement for the piece that, you know, like ultimately, you know, we still subscribe to nonviolent approaches to resolving these issues, regardless of how inflamed we might be about the thing, right? So, so I think that, you know, this photograph, staging it the way that it's staged, really helps illuminate why it's problematic. You know, when you go on a Google or search platform and see all these images of Black people burned, lynched, dismembered, shot, and all, you know, it's you know, and
did you expect that when you started Googling images?
Well, I mean, you know, we talked a little bit about normalized language before. This was one of those things where I felt like I had been exposed to so much that it was normalized, you know, like, and I think about like the school shootings we're having, right? Like, I think about all the movies, you know, that I watched growing up, all the action movies that I watch now. I think about all of the first person shooter video games, you know, all of these help normalize like mass shootings to a point now where we report on it, but we're not doing anything to really change anything, you know, because this has just been something that's been normalized in our society. And even though it's harmful, it's hard for people to like unstick themselves and kind of zoom out and see what the problem is. And so
I think that's terribly true. Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you, did you get what you wanted out of the show? No. I think I got things that I wasn't prepared for out of the show. So, so what I got from the show, I got everything I asked for, right? Okay.
That's never happened, right? And I didn't expect it to happen here.
What do you mean everything?
Everything that I wanted to do, I was able to do. Like technology wasn't an issue. People who had the skill sets to help execute it wasn't an issue. Money, the budget wasn't an issue.
Okay.
Got everything I wanted, right?
Gotcha.
I broke every record in the 28-year history of this space.
That's amazing.
For attendance to the show, for attendance to the art talks, I had like 4 artist talks. That's why I asked you if you came to the panel.
I only thought there were 2.
To the thing. But I did 2 artist-led ones that had like 50 people or something like that.
It was packed. The one I was packed, standing room only.
And so there were a lot of firsts for me, but what I ultimately want is this work to be included in the art historical canon, right? Like, in the same way we learn about Picasso and Matisse and Dali and all of these people, we're going to continue to learn about them forever, right? Yeah. Because they're part of this art historical canon. Like, I want to be one of those figures, I want to make work, that speaks to, a time that will hopefully land me there, like, I mean, as an artist, that's my only goal, like personally, my selfish goal, right? All my goals as an artist are obvious. We've been talking about this whole time, but my selfish goal is, this work be acquired, this work continue to speak to the present moment, even though it's made in maybe a near or distant past, because I fear that a lot of the themes of my work will still be themes that our culture and our country is dealing with in the decades to come. But none of the work got acquired by, institutions, and that means that I'm still not quite set foot in that historical canon. And I'm not in a rush. I mean, I still have a lot of work to make. I still have a lot of ideas to churn through. And the more comprehensive this catalog of works becomes, the easier it is to see the cultural significance and importance of it.
You used the word earlier when we were talking about museum, which it's not insider, but it's a little bit detailed. You said for the permanent collection, when museums acquire things for the permanent collection.
Yeah.
So you're looking to be a part of the permanent collection.
Yes.
I get that.
Yes.
Where did that show go after it closed?
After it closed, the bronzes in the show went to Art Basel. I showed at Miami Art Basel. And that was awesome. I mean, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. And then those works went from there to New York. I'm waiting for them to come back. Actually, they're supposed to be on a truck on June 20th, I hope. And then I'll show them with the new sculpture that I just finished at the Freedom Center on July 14th.
Yeah.
Wow.
The rest of the works are all in storage. I'm going to show those. I was supposed to show this body of work in the fall at Dillard University in Louisiana, but the show got pushed to the spring. So I'll be showing that body of work in the spring at Dillard University. But I'm working on 2 other bodies of work right now because, with the exception of the remaining sculptures for American Plus, all the work's done, Wow. So I just have to finish making the sculptures for the series to finish it out. But I'm working on now a body of work about relaxation, recreation, and leisure, which is important because those are the spaces where joy lives. And when joy is present, all the other stuff that my work is about is absent. So that's a very real part of the lived experience as well that I'm going to highlight in detail. And then those works I'll show in the winter next year. I'll show them here in Cincinnati. And then I have a body of work called Sticks and Stones that I'm working on. And it's about how words do hurt. Sticks and stones may break my heart bones, but words will but still hurt me. This is about how words actually do hurt. And so, that's as I resolve this, we'll see more works come out. But that's supposed to show in January at Thomas More University. So
that's so exciting.
And Michael, I kind of cut you
cool.
off a little bit. I'm sorry when I asked you if you got what you wanted out of the show. You said nothing was acquired, nothing was purchased.
Yeah. No. Works were purchased.
Okay.
So I did have, I had two, actually I had three different sets of collectors here in town purchase works. So so works from that show went into private collections. Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So that's not why you said no then.
Right.
And I'm sorry I cut you off. Will you go back to why you didn't get what you wanted out of the show?
I think because it was I'm a local artist. Because I'm a local artist, I think that local carries a stigma, and it says to people that maybe I'm not able to perform and on the stage and make world class works. I disagree. I vehemently disagree with that assessment. But that's just been my experience. It doesn't matter if you live in New York and you're a local artist, you get the same treatment as somebody in Ohio who's a local artist. I can show in New York easier than I can show in Ohio.
And that's true. That's true in anything. That's part of our perception. When I was a consultant, we used to talk about if I go across town for a meeting, I'm a broker. If I get on a plane, I'm an expert.
Right. And so that's one of it. One piece of it. Like I'm a local artist. I also think that no one expected me, and when I say no one, I mean no one except me expected me to deliver a show of that caliber, right? Because all people are seeing are individual works. People saw paintings and they thought I was a painter when I'm so much more than that. You know?
They'll pigeonhole you as one thing, without realizing, some people like you and I'm also in this camp. We have multifaceted skills where we have interests in many different things, and that whole thing comprises us as artists. You know what I mean?
I do. And so what happens is now I've shattered all of the projections, everything that everyone else expected from me.
I love that.
And assumed,
Smashing stigma.
this show would be. This show was not that.
So say it again. In 28 years of that theater being there, this
28 years of the existence of this gallery, I broke every record.
That's amazing.
Every record.
That's incredible.
That's goosebumps all over.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That is great.
And so for me, now that the Band-Aid's kind of been ripped off, they're like, damn, well, if he can do this, what else can he do? Right? And so now it's like a waiting game. It's like, okay, like, like they
It's encouraging.
I love that.
I think that they know that like I'm capable, right? There's no doubt.
They will
about
champion
that.
behind you at this point.
Yeah,
which is
there's
amazing.
no doubt. But in terms of, acquiring things, it has to be in line with the works that they are looking to, kind of like acquire, to round out their collection. There's a whole lot of things that go into it, right? And so I'm not involved in it. I don't want to be involved in it, and I'm not going to let that be a distraction or a sticking point for what I need to do. So I'm just going to continue to make the things that I feel are important to make, that carry the narratives that I think are important to push forward, and keep on driving,
Hopefully that success at just, the very basic business level of it says we need to pay a lot more attention to Michael Coppage.
I think I can tell that that's happening.
That's amazing.
I've been a part of many conversations where I do believe that that's happening, I'm still a local artist, but now I have a proven kind of track record that everyone has been able to see, and I'm showing in way more places than Ohio, right?
Well, you've mentioned several all across the country.
Yeah, and I have more on that list that I'm not prepared to talk about yet because I don't have exhibition dates, but
exciting.
But the goal for me has always been, to be as broad and far-reaching as I can, particularly with the lens-based works with the T-shirts. Those play well in almost every space that they're in, and those offer a view into my practice that like maybe some of the other ones don't. Like, because we live in the Midwest, there's subjects and topics here that we steer clear of, and as a result, we're not as progressive. In fact, we're more conservative. So those works do really well in this region of the country, but the lens-based works can go anywhere, and they can do anything, and they can speak to anyone. And so, I'm making work. I'm not even making the work in consideration of the region the work is going to show in. I just make the work, and then after the work's done, I kind of assess where I think I'll get the most bang for my buck, and then that's where I try to get it. So there's a
let's get it.
A strategy. There's a kind of deliberate kind of accuracy and intentionality. And there's like the conceptual framework that is really driving all of it.
Mm-hmm. I think that we've taken a lot of your time.
Yeah, we got a lot of great stuff. I do want to reiterate really quick one thing that you said, which I actually wrote down because I was going to ask you a question about it, but we already talked about it. But I want to just reiterate your own words to those who are watching. But this is where you start. Small incremental changes around language leading to huge transformative shifts.
Yep.
So language and word choice is so extremely important.
Yeah, huge transformative cultural shifts. So
kind of like person first language, y'all.
Yeah. I'll just say this before we wrap. I did a TED Talk in 2021.
I watched it. That's where I got it from. Okay,
and so that line, so this is another thing, right? Like I read people's emails. I hear people do speeches. You see like Instagram posts or whatever, and someone's always quoting someone else, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like I want to quote myself.
Let's go.
I want someone to quote me, and so I started coining like phrases, and I only have two, but that's phrases, that's plural, right? I only have two, but I send them and I share them and I say them often because, we're talking about this art, historical inclusion, this arc, in addition to images and objects and maybe philosophy about work, like being able to have quotes, being able to have like little mementos that support all of this other stuff, maintaining and actively updating a personal archive, like these are all things that, I'm doing because I really believe that, there's a space for me. And I still have steps to take to arrive at the destination. I don't think that that's the destination. I think that, that just, if I arrive at that place, let's say in the next 10 years and I'm alive and I'm healthy, then now, I just become a comfortable, mature practice. And now I can really do some things, because I don't think institutional support will be a barrier. I don't think private fundraising will be a barrier. Sure. I don't think, I think that show I had at the Westin, I think all my shows from a quality standpoint and from a barrier standpoint will look more like that. The Westin is like that show is like a golden goose. You know what I mean? It's just something that doesn't happen. Every space I've ever shown in, one of those three things is a barrier, but I didn't have that problem. I didn't have that problem at the Westin.
Bet.
Michael, what are the two phrases?
So
I just quoted one.
Small incremental changes around language leading to huge transformative cultural shifts. And the other one is only through discourse or discussion might we arrive at an amicable solution, right? And we, I create these works to prompt this discourse so that we might have a discussion where we can arrive at an amicable solution. Because if we don't, then we're just going to keep playing this loop over and over and over again.
Definitely.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing and really, really, really inspiring. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. And
thank you.
I think it's really amazing.
For sure. I appreciate the crap out of you for coming to hang out with us.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and it's really nice meeting you, talking to you, and thanks for just extending the invitation. I mean, any opportunity that I get to talk about my work, I take, So
we appreciate you coming on very much. Add mental healther to your vocabulary.
Oh yes, mental healther.
I'm not a social mental healther though. I'm like a seasoned mental healther.
There you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah.
And I think I speak for all of us when I say that if there's a time in the future where we could have you on again, we would love that.
Yeah, of course.
Let me do something else and, kind of see where we land, because I think that, if you come to my next solo exhibition, I think you'll find the work will be very different. Like the emotions that you tap into won't be as I don't think they'll be as strong. I think it'll be, and they'll come from a different place. So I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing how I do. I can't reproduce that show. That show was awesome. It was it was I'm not going to be able to do that a second time because I'm not in that space. All of those things lived inside of me. They no longer live inside of me. They've been purged and crystallized so that I can look at and speak about objectively and without the emotion tied to it. The emotions evaporated. So now I'm living in this leisure, recreational, joyous space,
Yeah.
How cathartic.
Yeah, it's inspiring, man.
Very transformative.
It's great. I mean, I've just unburdened myself. So, and I know that there is a premium for, traumatic Black art, it's so visceral and people just love that shit. But I don't want to make that work, and I don't want to contribute to the making of that work, but for my own mental health, right?
There you go.
I needed to make that work.
Yes.
Because I needed to work through it.
From that perspective, I'm assuming you did get what you needed out of it.
Yes.
That's absolutely.
Yeah, so then I need to kind of augment my answer. I definitely need to answer that question. Yes, because I got relief, and
peace of mind
with things I've been dealing with and carrying around my whole life. So yes. And what's interesting is that's probably a selfish one too, the whole art historical thing is a selfish goal. But I think that being able to unburden myself and have other people help me carry this baggage is also a selfish goal, because why would anybody in their right mind want to do that? Right. And so I've created a way to encourage people to help me with that. And so
that may be a perfect way to end. And here's my take on that is whatever baggage I can carry, I need to.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're leading me that direction.
Word.
And I always say, through community, we can all find healing.
Through community, we can all find healing.
I agree with that.
That's my one-liner.
Yeah. And put it in quotes and it's golden.
There you go. That was inspiring. I want to do that for myself too. Just find just find those quotes in me that I would want to exist.
We should all have them. We should all have them.
I make music, and it's a different medium. Hearing your words and like just how you've used your artistic expression to work through these things that needed to come out of you for you to feel this peace of mind. I hope I can you've inspired me to shoot for a similar goal of myself in the future, and I want you to know that.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's more than I bargained for. That's one of those byproducts of doing what I do, and that's like the fruit that I can't ever really see.
Yeah.
Like how maybe it might encourage someone to do something or do something differently, right? And
right.
So thanks, man. I mean, I'm flattered.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Here's where we're starting next time. When we were at 21C 5 years ago, you said, I'm working on an idea, which is an immersive experience.
Yep.
And when we were at the Aeronaut last year, I said, is this what you were talking about? And you said, no, it's not.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that next time we have you.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to need some money to do that.
There you go. Who wants to give Michael some money?
Hey,
Let us know.
You know what, Michael? You finding money now is not like it was 15 years ago.
That's true.
I'm pretty
That's
sure.
true. Yeah,
that's for sure.
It's peeking its head out of the strangest places.
Never know who you're going to impact.
Yeah.
All right. So it seems we have learned a thing or two of what it's like to be in all kinds of different issues today, and what that can do, and what working through your issues in creative ways can do to empower you.
Yes.
And make you a more fulfilled human being who can also give to the world. So
yeah, that's a great summary. I mean,
we call those people badasses.
yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a badass.
I appreciate it.
We hope you've enjoyed this 3-part interview with Michael Coppage. We sincerely wish to have him back on in some time. Join us in a month for a fresh new episode. Don't forget you're awesome. Peace out.